Chapter 2: Different Ages Through the Spiral of Time. The Leo Age, 10,900 BC to 8,740 BC. This was the so-called Golden Age, the Great Golden Age of humankind. The Golden Age came right after the Ice Age and brought massive global warming. Leo is a fiery sign ruled by the sun, and this age brought worshipping of the sun as well. Sun gods are worshipped, solar deities emerge. Temples have been found with carved lions' faces, and we can find cat cults throughout the past. The desire for leadership and individuality brought up kings, shamans, high priests and priestesses, rulers, mentors, teachers, masters, creators, and the quest for gold, since Leo's element is gold. The opposite sign is always included very much during a certain age, and this one happens to be Aquarius. There is a certain disruption and suppression of the opposite sign. This period of time is associated with Atlantis as well. Atlantis is related to high priests, kings, and rulers. Advanced ancient technology, superior knowledge and power, but it is also known for abuse of power and abuse of technology. Power is associated with Leo, and technology with Aquarius. We have Sphinx, which is said to belong to the same period of this golden age time of Leo. It is well known that the Sphinx has the body of a lion and other parts belonging to other fixed signs: Taurus, Scorpio, Eagle, and Aquarius. But we won't go into that much detail now. Next, the Age of Cancer, 8,740 BC to 6,580 BC. This was the time of worship of the Great Mother. The mother in general, which correlates with Cancer. This is the time of matriarchy and goddesses and female priestesses and deities. Human beings were highly intuitive and directly connected with the divine. Mother was worshipped and women had great psychic powers. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and it represents mother, food, domestication, agriculture, and house buildings. Moon rules water tides, and during this period there were great floods which washed away the sun gods, which were replaced by the moon. During this time, people started building houses, settling down, and creating communities. Matriarchal culture was at the peak point during this time. This is when people started farming and agriculture. Cancer rules home and family, and we can see how these qualities were in bloom during that time. Female figures from all over the world were found from this Cancerian age. As a water sign ruled by the moon, it is no wonder that the Great Flood happened during this age as well. We have many artifacts from this period of voluptuous mother goddess figures showing and exposing breasts, vulvas, and hips. Tribalism was dominant and people were highly connected with Mother Nature. Womb motive was seen every day, and everywhere, and death was not perceived in the same way as we perceive it today. It was seen as a natural process. Life, birth, and rebirth were known to people as a natural cycle. The Age of Gemini, 6,580 BC, 4,420 BC. During this time, people started developing new skills in their intellect. Gemini represents polarity, duality, intellect, language, writing, reading, learning, and teaching, as well as traveling. Written communication started blooming. This is when individual consciousness developed. Before the age of Gemini, in the age of Cancer, we had tribal consciousness. The age of Gemini brought the awareness of duality, subjective and objective perception, cause and effect, male and female. And this is when dual gods emerged. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is also known as Hermes, winged messenger between gods and humanity, god of travel, language, trade. During this time, language development occurred as well as different ways and styles of writing. The world blossomed with things connected with the Gemini archetype. People started moving and trading, sharing information, exchanging and connecting. This is when people started using the left brain more than the right brain hemisphere. This is the collective rise of logic and rational mind, and losing touch with intuition. This represented the descent from spirit into matter, because human beings needed to develop more individual thinking processes and turn from psychic and telepathic communication to more practical and verbal communication. This is also a time when duality consciousness emerged and therefore brought awareness of life, death, and new perception of death when compared to the Cancerian perception of death. This is the time of twins, stories, and myths. Adam and Eve, Enki and Enlil, Cain and Abel, Romulus and Remus, Castor and Pollux, duality, good and evil, tree of life, tree of knowledge, tree of life and tree of knowledge, the Garden of Eden myth, and the knowledge of good and evil. Next, the age of Taurus, 4,420 BC to 2,260 BC. We have artifacts, statues, legacies, and evidence of the age of Taurus. This is the rise of Egypt. This is worship of shapes and forms, worship of the body, rounded shapes, material things, wealth, blooming, and blossoming. Taurus represents spring, fruition, physical strength, beauty and money, wealth and harmony, comfort and security. This is also when money and banks emerged and were implemented into our world. More sophisticated agriculture came up during this time. Improved houses, buildings, architecture was blooming. Massive palaces, massive architecture, beautiful forms and shapes, curves and roundness. This development of cities was due to the need for more luxury, hedonism, and enjoyment. This is when the bull was worshipped greatly. We see bull-like gods, fertility goddesses, and nature spirits. This is when what we consider modern civilization started, even though our civilization is much, much older as we see from previous ages. Taurus is a feminine earth sign ruled by Venus, and during this time, feminine archetypes were brought to light again. We see Apis, the divine bull, worshipped in Egypt. We see how cows became holy animals, and this is due to worship of earth, fertility, and wealth, maternal goods. Taurus symbology, the age of Taurus. People inclined towards pleasure and hedonism. This is a time when sculptures were the most popular. Isis and Osiris mythology, Osiris the bull, Isis the Venus. Everyone celebrated the bull and horns, cult of earth, properties, laws of properties, beautiful and gentle arts were created thanks to the influence of Venus. This is not because people knew that this was the age of Taurus, but because our galaxy emanated those ultraviolet rays while traveling through Taurus, and these emanations affected our planet and people who live in it. Masses were born with similar characteristics, just as we see similarities in people born under the same sign. These people intuitively felt these emanations, and they expressed externally what their soul deeply felt internally. But this is also when money became very important. The opposite sign is distorted and suppressed, which is Scorpio. And this is when sexuality was perverted, death was perverted, and dark was perverted. This is Babylonian age of body oppression, and we see that from the need to preserve the body after death. There was fear of death and obsession with death, fear of sexuality and obsession with sexuality, and preservation of material things. The Age of Aries, 2260 BC through 100 BC. This is a time of wars, blood sacrifice, tooth for a tooth, eye for an eye, battles and fights and competitions. This is the cult of the Lamb. Aries, the ram, Lamb of God, the sacrifice of the righteous one. Heroes sacrificing, persecutions, warfares, rapes, curses, punishments, massacres, blood rituals, mutilation of the body, sadistic behavior, fire, blood god Moloch, the Bible and laws full of threats and blood, Martian types of people, violence and action, military characters, aggression, red and hot, fiery energy. Aries is ruled by red Mars and represents initiation, rush, impulsiveness, aggression, quick temper, hot temper. This is also known as the Iron Age, and the metal associated with Mars and Aries is iron. This is when the black magic emerged, blood magic and rituals, masculine art, masculine people, horns of the ram and lamb sacrificing. This is when the opposite sign of Libra, justice, cooperation, harmony, and balance, was suppressed and distorted. The energy of Aries archetype goes forward, masculine, a straight line, rushing ahead in all directions until it gets tied and spirally bends into a rounded celestial form, a feminine curved form. This is how all cycles work, but let's get back to the Age of Aries. This is when the hero warrior was popular. Glory of the hero, glory of the bloody warrior. These are Moses, Achilles, Jason with the Argonauts, and the search of the golden fleece of the ram, Hercules, Alexander the Great, Spartacus, and all other great warriors who showed up to be worshipped. This is when matriarchy was replaced with patriarchy. This is when people started worshiping one God. This is when the time of monotheism. But this age was very needed and necessary for the collective individuals to develop courage and individuation, selfishness, and me-first mentality. These were heavy lessons, but necessary ones. This is when Moses brought 10 commandments from the mountaintop. Libra, oppression, balance. This time was the development of ego, which we need in order to develop our spirituality. This was preparation for the Piscean age. This was I am energy. Infantile, selfish, courageous, and fearless, wild, violent, all at the same time. This is when Marduk defeated Tiamat. Patriarchy replaced matriarchy. This was the need to break free from earthly psychic energies into fiery, impulsive activities. As the age of Aries progressed, humanity struggled to establish laws that could tame ego and esoteric dominancy. This was the masculine archetype development. This was the time of Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, who came as a gift of this age. This was a time of male power and male dominance. Senators, priests, male gods, lawyers, astronomers, scientists, philosophers, architects, and others. Metallurgy was developed, mathematics and logic. In Egypt, there was Adam and Amun-Ra, ram-headed. In India, Agni, god of fire. This shift of ages and its influence was everywhere. It didn't have to do with people sharing information and reading about the sign archetypes and their meanings and then manifesting those archetypes. This is something that happens simultaneously as we evolve, and so the cosmos evolve. We can't discover anything new unless we are ready for it. This was a time of loss of power, mighty male heroes, chosen army, and leaders. Mortal heroes. A mortal doesn't think, he rushes, and on his way he dies. That's a Martian type of Aries, and in ancient Sanskrit he's called avidya, which means ignorance. The whole of nations were rushing in the same manner, euphorically destroying everything on their way, enchanting heroes, unpleasantly dying, not asking for sense. Avidya. Next comes the Age of Pisces, 100 BC to 2060 AD. This is the Christian age. The Christian cults and cultures which perverted Christ and his teachings. This is the age of Christ's suffering, his crucifixion, his sacrifice, and resurrection. Pisces brought confusion and suffering, obfuscation and mystification, obscure teaching, hidden knowledge, and great losses. This age is also known as the Dark Age. Pisces represents mystery, the otherworldly, transcendence, spirituality, sacrifice, victimization, deep subconsciousness, secrets, hidden fears, confusion, illusions, delusions, deceptions, scandals, empathy, darkness of the unconscious, urge to merge, all is one, escapism, lost, the need to escape this reality, alcoholism, drugs, therapies, hypnosis, and hallucinations. This is the age of the matridom, Maya, illusions, blind faith, and lies. This is the age of deception. This is the age washed away the ancient knowledge and wisdom. Ancient knowledge has been diluted and blurred. It was during this age when the Library of Alexandria was burned and when much of the ancient history was destroyed. Knowledge is either destroyed or hidden. It is hidden away from us, and we are being kept in the dark. We see mystery schools and churches emerging as polarities of true wisdom and spirituality versus religion and politics. People were easily misled. People needed someone to lead them. Sheep needed a shepherd. People needed authority. People lost their own authority and felt weak and victimized. Church fathers needed emotionalism as a base for manipulation, and it was easy during this Piscean age to control the masses through emotions and feelings, because the archetype of Pisces represents deep emotions, confusion, poetic romanticism, and ecstatic states of the soul. So everything that made sense and that seemed logical and meaningful had been cruelly and ruthlessly burned and destroyed, while everything that was confusing, unclear, mystified, and coded had been ideal for preservation and presentation to the collective. The less they know and understood, the easier it was to control them and keep them in fear and darkness. We are still under this spell. This is how we lost our connection with true knowledge and wisdom. This is why we have to decode these stories and symbols. This is why we have to reestablish our relationship with the Christ within us. We need to decode and understand the true meaning behind parables, mythologies, and symbols that are only confusing instead of enlightening. During this time, we were detached from God, and we were taught that God is a separate being from us, unreachable, somewhere far away, unknown, unseen, and impossible to experience during life. We were forced to blindly surrender to a higher being. We were forced to blindly believe, to have hope and faith. And this is how the separation started of believers versus non-believers. We were forced to believe that we need salvation, that we need to be saved by outside forces, that this planet is not our home, that our source is far, far away, somewhere else in another dimension, in another world, that we are detached from our source. This most humble and decent people were playing the roles of martyrs and slaves. They were sacrificed time and time again. Good people have been abused and misused. Good people have been forced to punish themselves by being forced to believe that they made unforgivable sins, which has been amplified by having a role model of ultimate goodness, Jesus Christ, who sacrificed himself for the collective, who took sins of the collective on himself, who died for the greater good. Now, during the shift of ages, we're going to understand the story of the Christ in a true way. We're going to experience Christ and enlighten our minds to come back to the real knowledge and wisdom. To come back to the real knowledge and wisdom. This was the age of ignorance, darkness, deception, self-punishment, masochism, and guilty conscience. This was the time of Inquisition, the time of the witch hunt, burning innocent men and women by falsely accusing them of being witches and wizards, while most of them were shamans, gurus, people who prepared natural medicines, people who were connected with nature and divine people, and the divine, people who were deeply into the cosmical wisdom, people who carried knowledge. They were a threat, and those who ruled the collective. They were a threat because those who were in authority wanted to keep the crowd in the darkness, because then they could keep the crowd under full control. They could do whatever they wanted because they kept them in fear. We are coming out of the Dark Age, which brought so many needed transformations, insight, struggles, and pains to our ancestors, to our planet Earth, to our collective, to our psyche, and to our own selves. The age of Pisces was the age of suffering and sacrifice, punishment and sin. It was during this age that we were taught and programmed to believe that something is wrong with us as soon as we are born. We're born out of sin. We are sinful. We carry errors. We are impure. We need to purify ourselves. We did something bad, and now we're being punished. We can see this disruption and suppression and denial of the opposite sign of Virgo through this time. This is the age of masochism. While the age of Aries was sadism, this need to purify and cleanse ourselves from sin, this belief that we're imperfect beings and that we need to be perfect in order to earn a ticket for heaven. Karma has been misinterpreted largely during this time, and the whole concept of karma has been misunderstood from the collective. Karma is understood in a very superficial and trivial manner, and people are again led to believe that they have done something wrong in the past lives and now they're being punished while others are rewarded for being good. So, we are not only told that we are born in sin, but that we have already sinned in past lives. This is a necessary program for our evolution. These were necessary lessons and algorithms and archetypes that we had to go through in order to learn, evolve, and understand. But now we don't need this anymore. Pisces is also about releasing, healing, and letting go. And so we are letting go. So now when we are in this transitional shift phase, we have the greatest chance to release, heal, and let go, to forgive and to transcend our pain and suffering. This is the age of prophecies, when we were told again and again through centuries that we're getting closer to end times, that this is the apocalypse, and that the world is about to end. There are always good and bad sides to every age, and this age of Pisces also brought wisdom of compassion, forgiveness, unconditional love, kindness, and empathy into our psycho-spiritual fields. We transition from heroes into saints, from blood warriors into spiritual warriors, from yang to yin, from fire to water. The age of Pisces is the age of world religions. All religions emerged during this time, and we are all collectively programmed into Christian scripture, which has been twisted and manipulated for the masses. We all carry this unpleasant feeling that we don't deserve to be happy and satisfied. We automatically feel guilty, and our guilty conscience is always torturing us, always telling us what we should do and what we shouldn't do, even when our hearts clearly say what we need to do. We often listen to the voice which makes us feel guilty and ashamed, a voice that makes us feel as if we did something very, very wrong, as if we made the greatest mistake of our life. During this time, we saw roles of the victim and perpetrator, but actually both roles are victims of the system and blind faith and wrong beliefs. Blind faith was very common during the Piscean age, and Christianity brought some very dark teachings and beliefs into the collective. As we come closer to the end of the Piscean age and more into an initiation of the Age of Aquarius, we start understanding this age more deeply and profoundly. We start discovering the truth behind the parables and symbols, and we reveal the true meaning behind those teachings. Pisces and fish are closely related to Christianity. The fish is a symbol of Christianity, and Christ's disciples were fishermen as well. Christ's teachings were about oneness and unity, about unconditional love and unselfish giving. This is a higher octave of Pisces and Neptune. Christ taught about loving your enemies, loving thy neighbor. He taught about oneness. His teachings were based upon the idea that we're all one and that nothing is separate. This is what Pisces archetype teaches us too. But as we know, every teaching gets twisted and misinterpreted. The sign of Pisces is also the sign of duality. And we see how two fish swim in different directions, but they're tied together by an umbilical cord. This representment they represent many things: the past and the future, heart and mind, ego and soul, masculine, feminine, and they both are needed for the whole. They cannot be separate. There is a tendency to return to the source, to return to the whole, and to merge with oneness, and we could see how this misled many people into escapism through drugs, alcohol, all kinds of substances, which cause a different mindset and a different perception and give an illusion of being whole and belonging, after which the person feels alone and left out again. Addictions were many during this age, and they all came out of traumas and emotional pain. Now we have an opportunity to find individual inner unity and to be of service to humankind. We have to use the best from the Piscean age. We have to take this wisdom with us into the new age of Aquarius. The Pisces duality has brought increased opportunities between Eastern and Western religions, politics, morals, healings, methods, theories, wealth, and lifestyle. We have learned many spiritual healing methods during this time, physical healing methods, psychological healing methods, which all belong to Pisces and Virgo. Pisces represents spiritual healing, alternative healings, meditation, dissolving ego and mind, while Virgo represents physical healing, methodology, analytical mind, solving problems, practical solutions, using intellect, healing and finding medicine, finding a cure. We had spiritual practices and meditation from East and practical solutions and medicine from West. One of many Pisces-Virgo expressions during this time. Deeper manifestation of the duality is seen in our own nature, as we can see how divided we are, how bipolar we are, and how disconnected we are from ourselves, our minds, and disconnected from our hearts. And now we're coming back home by merging these two polarities. We're understanding that opposition draws the line, and lines draw the network, and that we can't create the network without polarities. We are all one after all, but this has to be understood in a proper manner. This has been one long battle of dark and light forces, and ego and soul, of the essence and personality. We have to form a true relationship between these polarities in order to break out of the illusions of who we are. The age of Pisces actually represents the beginning of the ages, because these ages move into reverse direction. So this is not the end of times, but the beginning times. The Piscean age represents the beginning of a new 26,000 year cycle. This is why this is not only one regular shift of ages, but a major and transformation that we are all going through. This age also brought tremendous artists, amazing artwork, musicians, divine music, mystical experiences, artistic geniuses, mystics, painters, dancers, poets, writers, and hypnotics. People are very emotionally moved and touched in this age, very sensitive, vulnerable, and easily angered and irritated. Virgo is broken matter. Everything is chopped and neat, lost in analysis, while Pisces is spilled energy. Everything is messy and scattered, sophisticated in synthesis. The polarity ruled our psychics and reality for a This polarity ruled our psyches and reality for a very long period of time. Broken matter and spilled energy. Pisces represents the waves, while Virgo represents strands. Religion is in the conscious and unconscious of the collective. It is very easy to rule over the masses during this age. It is easy to shape and reshape the mass. The mass follows, and individuals who think with their own heads are being removed, murdered, or locked away. This age brought the most confusion, dilemmas, doubts, uncertainties, and skepticism. Traumas are deeply suppressed, impossible to be brought out to the surface. Everything is suppressed at the very bottom of subconsciousness. Hidden from sight, hidden from light, the Piscean age is negation of life, negation of the body, sacrifice of intellect, primitive emotions, torturings, asceticism, messiahs, seducing people through deceptive images and visions, making people afraid and terrified of individual forces, demons and devils, suppression and negation of sexuality, perversions of all kinds, and twisted knowledge. We saw many demonizations during this time. Almost everything had been demonized. Medieval times are full of deceptions and illusions and demonizations. Body and individuality are repressed and seen as evil. Lucifer, bringer of light, is demonized. And now we see how technology is being demonized during this shift from Pisces to Aquarius. As we get closer to the end of the Piscean age, we see the uncatchable Neptune being pulled out of the sea, unveiled, but many old-fashioned people still resist the truth, and they are magnetically attracted to illusions of Neptune. Normally, illusions are easier to accept than truths, which are terrifying for those who would rather stay in the dark. This transitional period is characterized by the flows and streams of warm, deep, and muddy souls versus clear cognition of cold intellect embodied in the light bearer, Lucifer Aquarius. New generations will take off the dark veil and merge the old mystified world, Pisces, with the new thoughtful and mental world, Aquarius. That was chapter 1 and 2 of The Age of Aquarius, Evolutionary Cycles and Spiritual Rebirth by Moon Omens. This book of theirs is available on their website, and I hope that you purchase it because it is very interesting, and I hope you enjoyed the chapter 1 and 2. Sending so much love. Thanks for tuning in with me and listening to me read you a story.